Tatami Galaxy aims to overwhelm with symbolic metaphors, complexly dense in so little time. It is akin to a puzzle that runs like clockwork. This very ending is a representation of how the mind can categorize, how one tatami mat goes into the next to form the shell of a larger structure, a macrocosm of the final story, each square correlated with the narrative of interconnected characters prior in time. Even though they are relatively simple geometry, it questions concepts. Lyrically, why does it seem to reference the symbol of a kami god? Is it just an internal monologue done in a softer tone in the haste of its counterpart in the series? Note the inversion between the normal ending and the one at the opening of the last episode. From a multitude of colors to a solitary blue, reality ends up upside down, just as all those switches roll at the end, and the potentialities of history are conjured up like the flourishing infinities that lay before empty time. Higuchi at one point urges seeking out a circle among all the angled shapes, but none is found until the episodic, prophetic opportunity is taken. And so it becomes one. A robot, symbolic not of heroism as in Masaki's ping-pong anime, but a shell that protects an improvement, that defends against the possibility of failure. The yellow carpet is present, but so is Name, the red sky indicative of an anguished subjectivity. But do automatons cry? Out of frustration, time rewinds, as the internal psyche of the protagonist grasps at a mental solution. At the beginning, tatami mats were the logical equivalent of disorderly rocks scattered among a prehistoric imagination. How do societies evolve despite strife? Light contrasts darkness. How does a limited individual fit in? Real objects and shadowed environments stand in for their drawn counterparts to possibly convey the physicality of sensation as the representation of geometry's sharper shapes. A subjectively interminable number of days are intertwined with past exploratory fictions. Mundane universality, a farrago of hallucinatory experiences revealed to oneself the ideal other, which is suddenly yellow and as chimerical as his own individual attempts at impression. Purple is a state in between. Hanuki's pink may be her weird humor. His hypothetical allies relive illusory lives. Green may represent youth, just as Akashi showered in the color later on, but Higuchi is stereotypically wiser than that. Fishing for words, randomly instinctive, calm as trees, his gut notwithstanding. Josuke Masaki may be representative of the director of a similar name, in reality an overgrown Ozu, fanning strife if possible. And so they go. These relationships tumble and rumble, but what is a social construct? How does a self interact with the other? How can a distance be closed? And can they hear each other? What fortuity lay in cupboards? What a fluky ceiling! Metabolism isn't involved in a rumination, an unveiling of a physical transformation. floating manifest, a palette of animated imagination, hallowed drama, feline oddities, a grey background. Ozu, is he indeed a multicolored disruptor of dichromatic tennis courts? A drunk, an astronomical film splicer, a verdant dyer of shirts, or a nebulous component of some surreptitious institution. Chronicler of society, fountainhead of pyrotechnics, the Grinch, enabler of perversity, and overcoated yokai, but perhaps like Miyasha, who rekindles the fiery passion of Dionysus, or not? What is that which is forlorn? How could portals be pulverized? A flexion contraption in a monochrome universe. This is an art of contrast. An ashen vacant firmament looms, but could also be figurative of anthropoid romance. His phantasmic whistling may hint towards it. It just doesn't help that it's with his friend's conjured up ideal. Where could a yellow, say Lakers phone, airship take us? The completion of an ultimate fantasy? The green valleys of some ritualistic gates reveals Ozu's quixotic tour de force. But what shade of color do both result in? The airship emoji could certainly be useful. Who is this onion-shaped Ozu, and what have they done to his grid? Well, he could try serenading his own literary creation. But who are these foolhardy mercenaries who meddle in affairs of the heart? And so, as batteries always do, right at that exact moment, this pair takes hold of the beard in this sphere of vacuity. But pasta it could relish, along with quite an artistic alluvium, striding to a backwards move and finally squid hybrid. 40 wings, of course, and a ray, theoretically. An equine fictive binding, readying for flick and is symbolic social engineering. This and more he invoked from a hypothetical time loop. Could one truly have such infinite space despite the holes? But how could the shell devoid of color be remedied? How could hue be interspersed between the self and the exterior? The canopy of an abode, not someone fierce. The hand float, nimble conceits, a spider's thread, material book's frontier, a Maromi symbol, a leafy lush reality, with dreamy rhythm, the drawn and not so intermingling, a clear sight of what one forgot, an opportunity missed, carpe diem rot, an airy figment, an alluring utopia. Might this be that orb of chance, this omnipresent express out of solitude? Might this trance have been but a prompt to fecund flights of fancy? This carriage ever heavy, an existential sway. This marriage of planes, an engine of Lepidoptera, and I am out. Tatami Galaxy excels not just at the little details, nor merely the amalgamation of reality and fantasy, not just with animation, but narratively too. It is hard to fathom how both were created separately. How is it that mundane life, a monologue usually reserved for dreams, is given such a climactic adaptation? A breath of fresh air, a transition between realms, a kaleidoscopic vision. This is not so much in so few hours. It is a walking painting, an animated chameleon. It begs us to wonder at the spectacle. What could be if the error of time shift? How does perception interact with the world? Is art ethereal? What cadence is surprise? Is language formless? And is life but a dream?